My name is Vajo Lukic, and I am an analytics consultant with Webstep. I've been working with Webstep for about 2 years, and for about last 5 years, I've been working in the field of data science, machine learning, and even before that, in the field of data management, business intelligence, and analytics. So this morning, we'll be talking about Amazon SageMaker, and I hope to make it worthwhile for you coming today. And I hope that you're going to learn something new. We're going to be talking about how we can innovate with Amazon SageMaker and how some other companies are doing that already. Let me just start with a brief introduction into AI, machine learning, and deep learning. I'm sure that most of you are already familiar with these terms, and we will not go deep into them. So field artificial intelligence is about us people trying to come up with algorithms that are capable of mimicking human behavior, like image recognition, speech recognition, and so on. Machine learning is a subfield where we use these different statistical methods to try to predict different events. And the deep learning is about using as an inspiration how the human brain works and how the neurons are connected to create similar networks of functions to allow algorithms to learn. And here it reminds me of a movie called the Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, where he just gets to live the same day over and over until he learns what he really wants to learn and he achieves his goal. So why is this relevant? Well, I'll be talking a little bit about digital economy leaders in today's world. And as you know, you have probably noticed that our daily lives are pretty much marked, and we are using services from the companies that you can see here, and there are many, many more. And all of these companies have pretty much emerged as market leaders, and their brands are incredibly strong. So apart from being extremely successful, all these companies also have something else in common. And that is how they got there. And it was about sales, of course, it was about branding, but it was also about the execution and about how these companies are trying to find a product market fit. So what do they have in common? Well, all of these companies are heavily using technology and innovation and basing their products on AI, machine learning, and deep learning. All of these companies are extremely fast in executing their ideas. And all of them benefit a lot from being first in the market, because once they take that position, it's really, really difficult to get them off that throne. And the way how they execute all this is actually through the experimentation. A while ago, or maybe a decade ago, there was an interesting research at Microsoft where they tried to find out how much those ideas that people are coming with are actually valuable. And they found out that roughly 1/3 of all ideas work. And one small portion, maybe 10% of those brilliant ideas were actually harmful for the business. And roughly 75% of decisions add no value at all. So from all this, you can see that it's really, really important to be able to execute any experiment quickly. Because let's say you have 100 ideas, you want to find those maybe 5 or 10 ideas that really work. How are you going to find them? Well, you really want to find them as fast as possible because you want to be first, and then you need to be able to experiment quickly. And that ability is something that we actually can get through tools or platforms like Amazon SageMaker is. So these companies, as you know, they rely heavily on open source. And I'm sure that you recognize these tools. but they're also using either these platforms that you can see here, or they have their own platforms that they probably created a couple of years ago before these tools existed. But again, all of these companies have something in common, and that is they're using mostly open source, and they're using cloud infrastructure as much as they can. So let's say that you want to become a new Uber or something, and let's say that you want to be able to find your ideas fast, and you want to base your innovation on machine learning and AI and everything. So how would you start with that? Well, most of the people would go with, okay, let's try to get some data, and let's go with exploring and cleaning and making that data useful for training. And then let's train different models. Let's find the best model that works through the hyperparameter optimization, everything. And then when we have that model, we have to deploy it somehow. We need to monitor it. We need to improve it, and so on and so on. And for each of these steps, we are going to need a server or a cluster or many clusters sometimes. And this is usually a long and expensive process. In some companies, a purchase process can take from weeks to months. And then innovation is probably not as fast as it could be. And in some companies, this can be really, really long. So there must be a quicker way, and yes, of course there is, and Amazon SageMaker is one of those ways. So Amazon SageMaker is consisted of many services, and the truth is they keep adding new services constantly. So right now I'm mentioning just a few which are the most important from my perspective, but when you go to explore it, I'm sure you'll find more. So one of the most important ones is a managed Jupyter Notebook server or notebook instances, where you can pretty much, with one click, get a running server with Jupyter Notebooks where you can start exploring your data. Then there is a ground truth service, which allows you to either manually or automatically label your datasets. So let's say you have acquired data that you need to process and label correctly. So you can either employ people from your company, or you can employ people from the Amazon Marketplace to do that for you. And there is additional capability that the service is capable of learning from those annotations that have already been given, and it can do things automatically as well. Then one of the recent additions was the autopilot feature, which allows anyone without any knowledge of data science or machine learning to create the first machine learning model completely automatically. You just need to give it a table-like data set, and it's going to pretty much deliver the working model. And yes, of course, this model is not going to be perfect by any means, but it's going to be something that is going to be valuable for anyone who doesn't really have a strong data science team or a lot of knowledge in the area. And that's something to start with, at least. You can use it as a baseline, maybe. And then there is a model tuning feature, which uses Bayesian algorithms to not just find the best set of hyperparameters with the brute force, but actually assign some weights, tries to find the best combination of hyperparameters through the Bayesian search. And then there is a model monitoring feature, which helps you to find out if your model has started to perform slightly worse than before, and then you can go and retrain it and make it better. And one of the latest ones was also Amazon SageMaker Studio, which provides a really nice user interface and pretty much looks like any other development tool that you have used to use, like IntelliJ or something. So when it comes to model development, Amazon SageMaker is end-to-end platform where you can do all the usual steps, starting with building your models, training them, and then deploying them. And you can do all this with ease, and all the services are in one place and together with the data. So when it comes to building, One very nice feature, and I think something that helps a lot of people to start with, is that when you start notebook instances, you can pretty much decide what kind of a server you would like to use. It can be completely free, or if you don't need anything really powerful, or you can use something with a lot of cores and memory, or even a cluster. And each time you start, you can decide to use something else depending on whatever you need. With this, you get complete scalability and also cost control, because you only can use what you need, not more than that. And when you start it, you get your usual familiar Jupyter Notebook interface that you've been using before as a data scientist. When it comes to training your models, you can either start with algorithms that have been provided by Amazon, which are running in containers, as you can see here, or you can provide your own, but you also need to bring them in containers. And again, here we also have a choice, and we can decide what kind of a server we are going to use. And again, scalability and cost control, really powerful. And then when you want to deploy your model as a service, that's pretty much just one line of code. And again, here you also can decide what kind of server you're going to use and have everything under control yourself. And once it's deployed, it's already working an endpoint that can serve as an API, or you can use it as a resource in one of your applications if you're building a Python or Java application or whatever. And of course, we can run prediction in a batch mode as well with the model that we have just developed. So experiments, if you run them with SageMaker, they become much more easy, fast, and powerful. So we just have to put the data into one of the S3 buckets, which is an object storage and extremely cheap storage. And then we use SageMaker to build and train our data, and then train hyperparameters and deploy our models. So pretty much one click starting the Jupyter Notebook, one line of code to train the model, and one line of code to deploy the model. And all of this, if you start from the scratch and you start just with idea, I mean, you can execute it in a days and not just weeks. But this is extremely powerful, and this allows you to run many experiments in a very short period. So just to summarize, the major benefits, as I see them with Amazon SageMaker, it allows you to jumpstart your AI and machine learning innovation and experimentation. And it allows you to do that in a scalable way. So you can start very small and expand as you need more capacity. And it's pay as you go. So you just pay for minutes when the servers are running and not more than that. And it allows a group of people, teams, to collaborate on the same projects. And it's a one-click deployment, which allows us to really quickly come from the idea to the actual product in production that can serve our customers. And that was all I had for now. Thank you very much for listening.